'Twas the night before Christmas and all through the big house, not a Wolverine was Oh, no, this is stupid. Let's just get to the preview. Episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, one day before Michigan football season kicks off. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Thank you for making us your first listen. Thank you to all of our everydayers out there. We do appreciate it. We are in preview mode, and it's all going to be about Michigan, not much about New Mexico, because YOLO, I guess. I don't know. So first segment and second segment, both just delving into what we think, what we want to see, and then finally what we think we actually will see in segment 3. I am having a hard time believing that football season is actually here. But we saw a little bit about it yesterday. I mean, obviously we had week 0, but then not to jump ahead completely, but I do want to get this out of the way right now. You got to feel a little bit more confident going into week 4 against Nebraska when you see what they did last night against Cincinnati. We have no idea how good or not good Cincinnati is. I'm kind of ambivalent. I mean, it might be a good Big 12 team, but a good Big 12 team should not compare to a good Big 10 team at this stage. And I bring this up mostly because I saw Big 10 football Twitter's post about Dylan Raiola. Like, he balled out because he had 243 yards. But he had it on 44 attempts. It was 5.7 yards per attempt, which is exactly what Davis Warren had last year. Just a lot more attempts at it. So with that in mind, we need to see something that is better and higher than that. I want to see, and this might be a little too much to ask. I'm not gonna lie about this because we don't know what the offensive line is. We don't know what the wide receivers are. It is a true freshman quarterback in Bryce Underwood. But Jalen Milroe had something like 9 yards per attempt last year. Granted, he had Ryan Williams. That's kind of what I would like to see is something kind of more in the vein of that. Do I think Michigan's going to throw 44 times tomorrow? Absolutely not. I think you're going to see a lot of running the football. Again, I think that it bodes well to see that Cincinnati ran kind of with impunity on Nebraska. We're just, again, getting way ahead of ourselves. There's 3 games before we get there. But I think that it bodes well to see some of these struggles from some of the other Big 10 teams. Now, Michigan, you obviously want to see look a lot more crisp. And considering that there has been all of this talk for the last couple weeks in particular, both sides of the ball kind of, y'all will see. Y'all will see. Just wait, is kind of like the thing that's kind of coming out. There are just so many elements that I wish I could get more into. But I'll be a little bit more frank here. That gives me confidence. I won't get into the full of it all, but we'll go a little bit more into why. I think that the changeover from Kirk Campbell to Chip Lindsey cannot be undersold, essentially. Again, I don't know if I'm using that right. Someday I'll figure out undersold, oversold. I just haven't done the mental logistics, and I only end up using it on this show. But I think that is something that is going to be absolutely massive for this team's offense. Is it good enough for the offense to vault up to like where you usually see a Chip Lindsey offense? I don't know about that. I don't. But to go from being dead last in the passing game in terms of yards per attempt last year at 5.4, I think you're going to see that number rise. Now, you need some things to go better in those 2 position groups that I just mentioned. I think you need to be better at running the football than you were last year as well, so that it isn't just because you don't want to afford being in a situation kind of like it had been in the past where it was like force JJ McCarthy to beat you. You don't really want to be there with Bryce Underwood, a true freshman, in week 1, week 2. But I think that you can look at a lot of this stuff and say, all right, there's a good chance that they're going to be able to find some balance. And this is where, if I'm Chip Lindsey, I kind of pull Sharon Moore from 2022 and do 2 things very early in week 1. You want to you want to not only unleash a deep ball, but connect on one. You got to do it, and you got to do it early. And you want to show, hey, Bryce can, the moment that you think that things aren't going to work out here, Bryce can take off. Whether it's designed read, right? Like, they're going to have lots of RPOs in this offense. It's going to be a lot different because it's going to be less West Coast, more downfield, all of that stuff. So I think that is one of the things that you want to do pretty quickly in this game. If there no other reason, is to kind of put Oklahoma and Nebraska and Wisconsin and USC in a position where they're sitting there thinking like, okay, we understand that Bryce can do some things even as a true freshman that we have to defend, and therefore we can't just key in on the run and say, Bryce, we dare you to beat us, because he will. So you have to find a way to do that. That's for all of the 2022. They said the kid can't throw the deep ball. Well, the Michigan didn't feel like it really needed to unleash the deep ball that much that year, because against Hawaii in week 2, in his first career start, J.J. McCarthy hit Roman Wilson on the deep ball. And after that, Hawaii said, oh, we got to keep some guys back. We can't just key in on the run. This guy's going to carve us up. And from there, subsequently, Michigan faced a little bit lighter boxes as a result. So I think you need to do that relatively early. But also, obviously, you do want to showcase those running backs as well. So again, balance is the key. But to get back to my Chip Lindsey, Kurt Campbell thing, just more and more that I've talked to people, there was just a lot more dysfunction going on behind the scenes with the offense than kind of meets the eye. And now all of that has been changed. All of that has been solved, whether it's just, coach player relations, whether it's predictability, all of those things have been solved for. And it was a bigger problem than anyone knew from the outside looking in last year. And that's why there was one coach that was changed and everyone else remained the same. Hence all of my talk about everyone's on the same page. Everyone is moving in the same direction. The morale, the culture, all of it is like very akin to 2021 when that same thing was happening. There was not like this, desire to mutiny anybody in 2021. And I would say that wasn't necessarily the case last year. So you have that on one side of the ball, but then on the other side of the ball, you have the defense with Wink Martindale. He's figured everything out in terms of how can I be a player's coach with the players that I have? How can I maximize the potential of these guys? He's got just a all-star team of coaches on the defensive side of the ball. Even the ones that like people don't talk about. Brian Jean-Marie. Like, listen, I loved Chris Partridge. I love George Hilo. Probably should actually give George Hilo a call. Missed that guy. It's just that's a Sato, right? Like that wasn't meant to be on air, but whatever. But like I think those guys both did an incredible job coaching the linebacker position. But with the kind of discord that happened in the end of 2023, Brian Jean-Marie did a phenomenal job of rebuilding that room, and now you've got 4 guys that can go. It's really incredible. All right, we're up against it. We're going to continue this. That's why we said this isn't 3 segmented things necessarily as much as it's 2. So let's move on. We've got more to talk about. Let's get to it here in just a moment. But before we do, college football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Listen, if you pull up Gametime, you can look in just a couple of taps. I saw amazing deals on there. I'm talking about going to your favorite college football games for as low as $25. Heck, you could probably get into Michigan State they might pay you. Gametime might pay you to go to the Michigan State game today. The app makes it super simple. I can even see the exact view from my seat before buying, and I love zone deals too. You pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, download Gametime today. All right, where's my mouse? There we go. It's fun using split screens. Sometimes the mouse likes to go over there and comes over here. Anyway, I digress. I want to add one quick thing. So I had people complaining about the technical difficulties yesterday and say, "Oh, Isaiah, you're not technologically savvy." I am technologically savvy. That's actually it's not my lack of tech savvy. Just because I complain about things happening as they're happening doesn't, like, I can't help that Adobe Audition decided that it's going to just glitch out with the newest version. That's on Adobe. We didn't have problems with it from 2018 until what is it? Mid to late summer 2025. 7 years, no problems, and suddenly we have problems. Equipment's been the same since 2020. So it's just interesting that we've had that. But yesterday with Jack Tuttle, still recommend watching. There is more internet problems. And I don't know what was going on with, we used to use Riverside up until yesterday. Yesterday was the last time we used Riverside because it was telling me, even though I have a brand new fiber connection here in Fenton with upload speeds of like, it's supposed to be 2 gigs. It tends to be a gig. It said, your internet's slow. I'm like, it's just not, though. In the words of Clayton Safety, it's just not, though. But then he's in a hotel, so I don't know what his internet speeds were. But it just, even with the new platform, it was just glitching out. And, you know, we're at the mercy of the internet there. And we just couldn't, like, every time I'd ask a question, he couldn't hear me. And he would go off what he thought I said, and then I couldn't hear his response. So that's why the show went the way it went. But thanks to cloud recording, everything turned out well. There was a little glitching when the show actually aired, but we couldn't hear each other. So there you go. Not to defend myself, I don't need to, but just to give you an explanation for why sometimes we have some of these issues here and there. That, you know, try to get the way we do things here, it's actually at a higher end. We've got camera, we've got different monitors, we're using like a bunch of different programs at once. It's a lot more complicated than just sitting in front of a computer, hitting a record button and going. All right. Defensively, I think that there's a lot to really be excited about, because you look at the linebacker position and, you know, I think you've got at least 4 deep there. And I got hyped up at the kickoff dinner for the Greater Detroit Club on Monday, just hearing Seth Fisher from MGO Blog talk about Troy Bowles, who doesn't even get mentioned, you know, and like they have 4 deep right now, but like they really might be more like 6 or 7 deep. That's the incredible thing. They might be like 6 or 7 deep, because not only do you have Jay Sean, Ernest, Cole Sullivan, Jimmy Rolder, you do have Troy Bowles, and then when he's healthy, you've got Jaden Hood, and then you just wonder, is one of those freshmen, Chase Taylor, Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng, can they get in the mix? I think it's possible, and I feel like there's a name in there I'm still like not even thinking of. Maybe not. They've lost a lot of linebackers over the years. So I like that position group. I mean, the front 7 is just insane. I mean, honestly, like they can come at you in at least 2 waves, if not 3, at any position group in the front 7. And then same thing with safety, especially when Rod Moore comes back. I don't think he'll be back this game, but I mean, safety too. I mean, you're looking at, okay, who, you know, I don't know who we don't know necessarily who the nickel's going to be. Could be TJ Metcalf, could be Zeke Berry, right? Like they're going to have different guys, but like you've got Brandon Hillman, Mason Curtis, Jaden Mangum. Mangum's like ready to go, and they've, you know, he's been someone they've talked about a lot in camp. So like you've got those guys on top of, you know, maybe some names that we haven't heard as much about, like Jacob Oden, and obviously, like I mentioned, Rod Moore. So like you've already got like 4, maybe, you know, you can go up to maybe 6 deep there. And then you get back to corner, and Sherrone Moore was talking like we might have like 6 guys that can go at corner, which is like that's not what I was thinking was going to be the thing, right? Zeke Berry, Jair Hill are your nominal starters, you would think, and then Shamari Earls and JoJo Edmond. We're going to see some Jaden Sanders this year, I believe. And I wouldn't be surprised if, like, again, people who haven't been named in fall camp, like Jeremiah Lowe, end up getting into the mix based off of what they did in spring. Now, was it going to be consistent? I don't know about that, but still, defense is just so deep. So that brings us back to our problem areas, which are offensive line and wide receiver. Now, here's the thing. I say that they're problem areas, but both should be theoretically better than they were last year. Offensive line, I believe, is very good at run blocking. And it's improving in pass blocking. That's not ideal, but that is what it is. Do I think that it's anywhere close to 21 through 23? No. But I think that the good news is outside of, here's the one thing. Looking at Oklahoma on paper, yeah, that's going to be a hard line to face. Nebraska did not allow Cincinnati to do much of anything through the air. They were able to run all over them, but Brendan Sorsby could not pass against Nebraska. We'll see what USC is, but USC has been USC for a while, and it has not necessarily put things together, but D'Anton Lynn should be very good. Hard to really gauge Wisconsin against a not good opponent that it really struggled against yesterday between that Nebraska and USC game. So there's just a lot there where you're like, okay, we'll figure that out. But I think that there's just a ton that when you look at it and you can recognize, okay, offensively, there's going to be some issues with the line here and there. But I don't think at any point it's going to be worse than it was last year. Even with the losses of Miles Hinton and Josh Preeb, I still think that you're going to have, I think Giovanni Alhadi, based off of everything they've said, I do believe them when they say that he's really taken that big step. And kind of looked at, I think that him being named a team captain by his teammates kind of shows that he said, like, yeah, last year, not acceptable. Move back to his native left, things working better. I think Evan Link is better based off of everything I've heard. Still question the right guard. Definitely feel good about right tackle. I think that the iron sharpens iron of this team is going to help out a lot. So yeah, I think that they're going to be better. Now, if they're at least what they were against Ohio State and Alabama, then I think you're in a good spot. And then wide receiver, it's everybody but Tyler Morris, who didn't exactly do a heck of a lot last year, unlike the expectations. And then you add Donovan McCulley, Anthony Simpson, Andrew Marsh, and we'll see if like Jamar Browder or some others play here that are true freshmen. But like, again, they've been raving about Samaj, and I would have thought that Anthony Simpson would have won that job outright because he's just got more experience. He's played against high level talent at 2 different places, and he's actually got the most production of anyone in the room. So I think that unit is better, and I think on top of it, they have a quarterback that is going to be more adept at getting them the ball. So with all of that, like, I think it's going to be better. I guess the question is, how much better? Is it go from being dead last in all of FBS in yards per attempt to at least middling? I think that that's a possibility based off of what I said earlier about just everyone being on the same page. Like, you can't underrate 2 different things: returning production, culture. And Michigan's got both of those things right now. Last year, it didn't have returning production, and it had kind of half the culture. But offensively, there were some issues that, went unreported. So I think that you're just going to see a much better output from this team as a result. So what do I think is going to happen against New Mexico? Let's get into it here in just a moment. But before we do, hey, Locked On Wolverines fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with a free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code football and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. It's like one stop at the pump these days. Anyway, I digress. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code football for a limited time 25-cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code football. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. All right. I'm ready and raring to go here in so many ways. I'm under 200 pounds for the first time since 2019. I'm lots of energy. That's why, we're able to do the show earlier now because I'm just more coherent in the mornings. So that's good. And I think that Michigan's going to just be generally more coherent. So again, I didn't do much of a deep dive in New Mexico. It's kind of hard to do it with how much they've hit the transfer portal, new staff, all of that stuff, low returning production, tons of transfers. But again, regardless, not great Mountain West team against a Big Ten team that beat Ohio State and Alabama to close the year last year. It should not be a contest, and I don't really expect it to be. Now, what do I want to see? I want to see Michigan. I want it to look like Western Michigan in 2021, where, the type of game where they go out there and here's the thing. I want to think about that too for a second. For anyone who looks at it and says, well, they don't, do they have high level talent here and there, whatever. Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo ended up being. David Ojabo didn't start coming on until the Wisconsin game, number one. Aiden was kind of impressive straight out the gates. But then you think about the defensive backfield. It was Vincent Gray and Jamon Green. It was these weren't neither guy ended up in the NFL. So it's kind of they were able to be as locked down as they were with those two guys. I feel pretty good about what they have on that back end because I do think that they are just going to be more consistent on the front end. And I think that they have, most importantly, the linebackers. So with that in mind, I want to see it be kind of one of those things where it's they're pitching a shutout or close to it and getting to a point where maybe it's they allow a last second field goal or touchdown. Kind of think back to any of those 3 years, 21 through 23, where it's it feels all right, yeah, they're going to get a shutout, and then the fours are out there and they let a drive go through against the ones of another team. And you're oh, come on. I think that that's probably going to be pretty close to what happens. And we're going to find ourselves in a situation where Jason Eck afterwards is sitting there talking about oh man, their defense is so good. That Bryce Underwood kid is amazing. That's what I hope to see. And that's what I think we're going to see in tomorrow night. I want to see sharpness because that's not what we got from Fresno State last year or Arkansas State. At no point until really they only had one game all year long where you would looked at and said they look sharp. And that was Northwestern last year. I think that now, because Sharon Moore's in year 2, he's gotten a little bit more of a feel. They have to be able to get back into that blowout situation. And I see a lot of people that predict, and I don't think there's anything wrong with this. Something 31-7, 35-10 or something like that. No, not against this opponent. Not if you're going to be what you want to be if you're Michigan. This has to be more like a 45-3 game. That's what it needs to be. It has to be I'm thinking of Top Gun Maverick, Glenn Powell. Thanks for the beers. Come back anytime. Right? That's what it needs to be as they're being thrown out of the establishment. So, and honestly, are we going to be there? That's the big question. I think it's going to be pretty close to that. I think you're going to see some of those first game jitters to some degree, but man, that's not always how it goes. Even some bad Michigan teams have come out and just pounced. 2014 Michigan with Brady Hoke in his final year, a team that went 5-7, opened up against a newly elevated App State team And everyone was a little bit on edge, right? It's like, oh, it's Appalachian State. We know what happened, 7 years ago and whatever. But like, they ran them off the field. That's what we need to see. Because even though I think New Mexico is probably going to be a better team than that was, I think this Michigan team's worlds better than that one was. And even though, and so far we haven't seen like those big, crazy, typical expected blowouts, and part of it might be the transfer portal has kind of changed some things. I think that this is the type of game where I think Michigan's going to end up doing that. I think they're gonna have the second blowout of the Stronmore era as the head coach. So Bryce Underwood, I'm going to say that he passes for about 250 yards. I'm going to predict that it's higher in the yards per attempt, because I think that they are going to hit a couple of those long balls. I think he's going to have, maybe it won't end up being like, I'm going to say 220 actually, because I think that maybe he'll connect on a couple of long ones, but I think he's going to have a stat line that looks something like 14 for 21 or something like that. Like, he's not going to have nearly as many attempts. Maybe the completion percentage isn't quite as high as we would like to see it, because they are going to be trying to figure out some things. But I think he'll connect on a couple deep ones. He'll wow some people. He'll probably add another 50 yards rushing in this game. So that'll put him at 270 total offense. It will give people just enough to be like, okay, we're working with something. MVP for the game, I'm going to go with Ernest Hausman. I think he's just going to show that he is being slept on from a national perspective. And my final score, here we go. I said it before, actually. Did I say it? I think I said 45-3. I'm going 45-6. I think Michigan's going to absolutely surprise people, and everyone's going to look and say, okay, that's not what we expected. Again, it's against New Mexico. People will kind of forget, and it'll be like, well, show me next week, and we'll see. So that's where it's at. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you again after a game. A game is happening this weekend. Talk to you then. Thanks. Peace.